Welcome back to the second edition of the Triple Talk podcast. Today it's not really a triple talk, it's more of a duo talk because Bebs couldn't make it. He'll be back tomorrow for the March Madness bracket, but it's just me and Nate today, and we're discussing a pretty jam-packed week, the last week of NFL free agency. Lots of players going to different teams, lots of interesting situations starting, and first we're just gonna jump right into it. Derrick Henry to the Ravens.
Okay, so I think this is pretty exciting. It is sad to see Derrick Henry leave Tennessee because he really seemed to fit there with the culture and everything. I think it's a good move for him because the Titans O-line had really been starting to fall off, and their team as a whole is clearly in a different spot than where they were when he was there and dominating. And I still think he has a lot of good football left in the tank. He's really old for running back. He has a lot of miles on him in the NFL, but I think Baltimore is a great place to go. Their O-line isn't necessarily great. I believe that they're starting to get a little bit worse. Ronnie Stanley is getting injured, but adding a dynamic running back there is going to be amazing. I mean, I realize the Ravens have had J.K. Dobbins, who's been pretty great, but he unfortunately just keeps getting hurt. So I think seeing Derrick Henry there will be really entertaining. I just hope that if once it gets to the playoffs, they actually decide to give him the ball, and they might actually be able to win some games.
Yeah, I'd say Derrick Henry. I mean, obviously in the notes that I have down, it says is he the missing piece for the Ravens. I think Derrick Henry could be. I think with the offense they run with Lamar Jackson, obviously everybody says he's a running back, but Lamar Jackson is not a bad passing quarterback at all. I think having somebody like Derrick Henry, who's pretty reliable, I could be wrong, but I don't think Derrick Henry's been injured that much in his career. Um, Derrick Henry could be pretty reliable. He's a strong runner. I mean, like you said, he has a lot of miles on him, so that could leave a little room for injury. But I think he honestly could be the missing piece that they need to finally break into another Super Bowl.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to watch. I would say that overall as a team, they have gotten worse from last season, but or in the terms of losing players, like I know Patrick Queen, that was a big one. He went over to the rival Pittsburgh Steelers, but Roquan Smith's still there. He's better. He's the main play caller for that defense. They lost Geno Stone in the secondary as well. That could be big, but I think the Ravens will definitely still. I mean, it's obvious they'll be one of the main teams in the top tier of the NFL next season, and they're going to be really exciting to watch. I mean, what can you do to stop a Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry read option?
Yeah, I mean, the NFL is kind of like it's a weird league now. I feel like historically the NFL has always kind of leaned offensively or defensively for teams. But I think the NFL is kind of in a period where it's like if you have a good offense, but you have a bad defense, it's not going to make up for it. I mean, like look at the Chiefs. I wouldn't say the Chiefs had the greatest offense in the world last year, but that defense just bailed them out constantly. And I mean, when the Chief like Patrick Mahomes, I mean, you can hate on him all you want, but when Patrick Mahomes gets hot, he gets hot. I mean, having a good defense, which I think the Ravens have a pretty solid defense. I just think they've offensively struggled. I mean, that was clear. Who do they play in the? They got
They beat the Texans, but
yeah,
then they lost to the Chiefs because, I mean, well, their defense was really great last year. They actually gave up no points in the second half to the Chiefs in the second half of that playoff game too, but they just kept like selling really on offense. Like Zay Flowers fumbled the ball at the 1 yard line. I think Lamar threw an interception in the end zone.
yeah. I mean, that's like right there. That's interceptions like that don't really need to happen anymore because they can give the ball to Derrick Henry and he can eat yards. I mean, you don't really like you give him the ball on first down. He can pick up a few yards, get you in a hopefully like a second and 6. But I mean with Lamar back there too, I mean defenses have to you can alert to the run, but I mean you can only alert to the run so much before you have to decide, all right, so you're alerting to the run every time. You have to decide is that Derrick Henry, is that Lamar Jackson? And then past that, Lamar Jackson, like I said, is not a bad passing quarterback. He can still throw out there. And I mean, I think that offense is just going to become quite a problem to deal with till they find a way to shut it down.
Yeah, I think They're, in my opinion, definitely the second best team in the AFC. I don't think you can say that anyone's better than the Chiefs currently, but they can definitely challenge. I mean, I think they could. I would not be surprised if the Ravens go out there and knock off the Chiefs in the playoffs
I
this
mean,
coming season.
I think a lot of people would like to finally see that, but I know we're talking a lot about the AFC, and you brought up Patrick Queen going to the Steelers. I mean, the Steelers have had quite the offseason so far for themselves. I mean, I'd say Russ to some people is a bit of a risky take after his time in Denver, but I also just don't think Russ has fallen off that much. I think the comparison that Russ gets isn't entirely fair to him. I mean, when you look at prime Russell Wilson on the Seahawks when they were really good, I mean, like you have Marshawn Lynch, which I wish Pete Carroll knew, but instead he threw it at the goal line. But you have Marshawn Lynch, like that's a stacked receiving core. You have a good backfield. You have the Legion of Boom over there. Like I think comparing Russell Wilson to that versus the Broncos, it was just not a fair comparison, and I don't think he's a horrible decision for the Steelers. I mean, anybody's better than Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. No matter how well Russ plays, I, I really think he's going to be a step up from Kenny Pickett. My real problem with the Steelers is I really don't think they've gotten that much better. I mean, they traded for Justin Fields to be the backup, and they have Russ coming in as a starter. And I would say out of anybody in the league, those two struggle with taking sacks that they shouldn't the most out of any quarterback in the league, or any two quarterbacks in the league. And it seems kind of weird to me to pit those two together on the same team. So the Steelers O line is not going to have a fun time because they're going to have to block for a lot longer to protect their quarterback.
Yeah,
And while Russ put up some really good raw stats last season, there's a reason that the Broncos decided to move on from him. And I don't see like the Steelers really making much noise next year. It was nice that they got Patrick Queen. It'll help their defense. Their defense is great as always. Like, I mean, obviously you've got TJ Watt there who should have more defensive players of the years on his resume, but he continues to get snubbed.
yeah. I
I don't
mean,
know. We'll see what happens. Maybe he'll get one that he deserves next year, but I don't see much else happening past the Steelers getting their yearly above 500 record.
I mean, as long as Mike Tomlin doesn't have a losing season, I think the Steelers are fine. I mean, I think that's all they care
Yeah.
about is not finishing with a losing record. However, a pretty key part of the Steelers did come back, and he's been a key part for a few years now. The Steelers re-signed Chris Boswell, so
Shaking news.
that is big. Chris Boswell has been great for the Steelers, and I think he continues. The Steelers, I think, are having some punting trouble though. I think they released Presley Harvin. I don't know if they signed a new punter, but I mean, there's some talented punters in the draft. I mean, you got like Torrey Taylor, one of the best punters in college football history. I think that could be a good snag for them. He's from Iowa, so weather's not a big deal. So I don't know. I think the Steelers, like you said, average team at best. I think the noise they've made was by signing big name players. We'll see. They also have Arthur Smith as their offensive coordinator, which I'm sure you're very glad that he's in Pittsburgh and not Atlanta anymore.
Yeah, I think it is funny that they moved on from Matt Canada and went directly to Arthur Smith, which I imagine that the Pittsburgh fans aren't exactly too excited about that. That's really not that much of an upgrade. I don't know. Arthur Smith did prove that he was a great offensive coordinator with the Titans, but I don't know, just being a Falcons fan, what he did in Atlanta leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and I can't imagine him being that great in Pittsburgh. But we'll see. Maybe he's one of those coaches that's an amazing coordinator, but not so great as a head coach.
Yeah. I mean, kind of bouncing around. I feel like I'm really bouncing around teams here, but you mentioned Derrick Henry in Tennessee earlier, and Calvin Ridley to the Titans.
Yeah,
Very, very
I'm
interesting
interested.
decision. Probably had something to do with sports betting. I bet he. I mean, like I know that's a big joke right now. Everybody's saying he placed a bet that morning that Calvin Ridley would go to the Titans and cashed out on it. But
Yeah, I
there's
thought that was surprising for sure because basically the talk was that he was choosing between re-signing with the Jaguars or signing with the Patriots. And I mean, we know the Patriots could definitely use him up there. They could use, I mean, they're most likely going to draft a rookie quarterback, but they could really use some more weapons up there because that's, I mean, they sorely lack that. But I actually like the signing of him with the Titans. He didn't really seem to fit that well in Jacksonville. I just don't think he had great chemistry with Trevor Lawrence. It kind of seemed off the whole year. And like in my opinion, I think he's a good football player. I watched him in Atlanta. He's a great route runner, but things seemed off in Jacksonville, and I hope that he can get on a better page with Will Levis in Tennessee. And I also do like what the Titans are doing. I realize they've lost Derrick Henry, but I do like that they're trying to get weapons for their young quarterback, Will Levis. They signed a center to Lloyd Cushenberry from the Broncos, I believe, and then they also signed Tony Pollard from the Cowboys. So they are trying to surround their young quarterback with talent to see what he's got. They still do have DeAndre Hopkins at the moment. We'll see if that continues into next season. I mean, he might. I have a feeling that he may not be on the Titans roster come week one with the Calvin Ridley signing, but I'm excited to see how Calvin Ridley can help Will Levis grow into his second year in the NFL.
Yeah, I think obviously said DeAndre Hopkins, but I think with a team like the Titans, they have a young quarterback in Will Levis. I feel like keeping someone like Derrick Henry, who's been there for a minute, I feel like it was right to move on from him. Give Will Levis a chance to really blossom as a quarterback or fail out. But I mean, it's just I think there's bumps in the roads that they need to fix, and you need a young team to do so. You can't have old blood in a new team and think that it's going to work out. So I think getting rid of Derrick Henry honestly was best decision for them long term because they definitely can start to build a younger team, see what they have, and see kind of what that team needs past having Derrick Henry keep them in games.
Yeah, the one thing I don't like about them is that they fired their head coach, Mike Vrabel. I think he really is a good head coach, and I don't know. I mean, we'll see how it works out for them, but I don't think that was exactly the best decision.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a fair amount of people. I mean, like we're not gonna spend time talking about every single person that got signed and everybody that traded teams. We're kind of just hitting the big ones. But if we're gonna stay up north, we cannot miss talking about Keenan Allen to the Bears. That's that is a big trade. I don't really think anybody saw that one coming. I think that one really surprised everybody. I mean, Keenan Allen to the Bears, then they get rid of Justin Fields a little bit after that. I mean, I'm imagining that decision there is going into drafting Caleb Williams at number one overall. But still, Keenan Allen to the Bears was not on my NFL bingo card.
Yeah, I mean, I like what they're doing, surrounding their new young quarterback with weapons. I think they only had to give up a fourth round pick to get Keenan Allen, because the Chargers traded him because he wouldn't restructure his contract, and I guess they didn't want to pay him, couldn't afford it. But I mean, if Caleb Williams is really all that he's talked up to be, coming into the NFL with uh your top two receivers being Keenan Allen and DJ Moore, and we just saw what DJ Moore did last season. I mean, that's some great weapons. He's like, I mean, it really looks bright, honestly. Their O line is still, it seems like that's always a problem with the Bears, but
Yeah,
their weapons are looking pretty great, at least.
and I
So that's
mean,
that's good news for the Bears.
the Bears are just like that. DJ Moore, Keenan Allen receiving. That's a great duo. I mean, I wouldn't say it's Mike Evans, uh, Mike Evans and I can't remember his name right now. This is
Chris
bad.
Godwin.
Yeah, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. I wouldn't say it's that kind of duo. That's bad looks as a Bucks fan to forget that. But I wouldn't say it's that kind of duo. But I would definitely say that is going to be a great duo for any young quarterback to come into. I think as long
How would
as
you how would you compare it to the Nate and Shane duo? How do you stack those three?
well, I'd say Nate and Shane is like right here.
Like clear at the bottom, right?
Keenan Allen, DJ Moore right here. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin is up here. You can't even measure it.
That's pretty accurate. We seem to. I think if you put us on the field for the Bears, I don't think Caleb Williams' first season would really go that great. I don't. We don't really tend to get much separation, and
Yeah.
we're kind of small stature, so it's kind of hard to take hits from NFL linebackers if
I
you put us on
also
a slant
would
route.
not block.
You also use copious amounts of performance-enhancing drugs, so it's kind of hard
I'd be out
to
by week
surround
one.
your. It's hard to surround your rookie quarterback with talent when they keep getting suspended.
But speaking of cheating, we'll go over to a city that is pretty fond of it, Philadelphia. Um, Saquon to the Eagles, quite the move. I mean,
Yeah,
Saquon
that
not
was
really ever
crazy.
healthy, so I'm a little concerned about that. But I think the Eagles are really in a desperation spot right now. I mean, obviously they made the playoffs, but I think they're at the point that to make anything further than what they've done, they needed people. So I think they're signing Saquon. I would say under the assumption that he finally is healthy, because when Saquon's healthy, he's good. But I mean, I would
I'd
love.
say the past 2 seasons, I think he's been mostly healthy. He's maybe missed a few games or played through a few injuries. So we'll see how electric he can be in Philadelphia, but it is exciting. I mean, they had DeAndre Swift, who looked really good started last season. He kind of started to fall off and towards the playoffs and end of the season when they had their huge slide at the end of the year. But we'll see. I think if Saquon proves to be what he's been in the past and what he's talked out to be, then this can be a really big signing for the Eagles.
Yeah, I think it's almost another kind of Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson situation. You've got a somewhat mobile quarterback and Jalen Hurts, and then you got a big running back that's not easy to bring down. But I'd say if Saquon stays healthy, that offense could be pretty scary.
Yeah, the last few years, the Giants' offensive line has been so bad that he's kind of been like a high volume chain mover for them, and he hasn't gotten to be as electric just because he doesn't have those chances. But I think in Philadelphia, we'll really see that big play potential that he had at Penn State, and he's flashed before, and because he won't have to carry the offensive load for the Eagles, they have so many other weapons. So that's exciting to see for Saquon's sake.
And then kind of there's not much more to talk about on the Eagles. I mean, Jason Kelsey's done. That's not news. Everybody kind of knew that was coming. But I mean, to not really get hung up on the Eagles much, they haven't really done much other than that.
I do like the Bryce Huff signing at the end. I think he's a really good player from the Jets, and I mean the Eagles always seem to have crazy defensive lines. Fletcher Cox also did retire, longtime Eagles, so both of them going out in the same season, probably sad for Philadelphia fans. But Bryce Huff is a nice signing on that D line. Don't be surprised if he's up there in 8 to 10 sacks by the end of the season. Solid contributor.
I think the Eagles will be solid. I think there's a lot more teams in this league that have a lot to worry about. I don't think the Eagles are really one of them. I think the Eagles go back to the playoffs. I'd
Oh, I mean,
almost
definitely.
I'd almost say
That's
they're
not a hot
like,
take.
yeah, it's not really, there's nothing to be scared about in Philadelphia if you're a football fan. Um
Yeah, I think they bounce back this season, and I think they honestly can challenge for a Super Bowl again.
I will say one team that made a signing that I don't quite understand is the Jaguars and Mac Jones. Uh
I mean, they didn't give up much to get him at least, and I mean he's a backup quarterback, and I guess it's an upgrade over like C.J. Beathard, who they had before, but
I
we'll see. I
just
mean, I don't see it amounting to much because he's a backup, but who knows?
I mean, like, I'm pretty sure that's Trevor Lawrence's job. I unless Mac Jones goes on a Jameis Winston training regimen in the offseason and somehow comes in and takes the job commandingly.
Or takes the job or takes crab legs.
Okay. Yeah, that conversation's done. Um Mac Jones Blake Bortles season? Are we going to see it?
I mean, most likely Mac Jones is going to not start any games if everything goes right for the Jaguars.
He will be a
So I don't
UFL
I don't see that being
UFL
too
starter
big.
by week 4.
Yeah, Mac Jones most likely has just cemented himself as a career backup in the NFL, which is congrats to him. That's a really awesome job considering you don't have to play at all and you make a lot of money. So good job, Mac Jones.
I will say though, this is probably where the meat of our episode is going to come down to. We're going to head a little more south of Florida, down into Tampa, where the Bucks have kind of been cooking all off season. I mean, the Bucks, they re-signed Mike Evans, they get Levante David back, they get Baker Mayfield back, they get Jordan Whitehead back, re-sign Chase McLaughlin, and the Bucks overall are looking just to kind of be the same team that they were last year. And I think overall the Bucks' struggle last year was ultimately their secondary. Got rid of some of the problems in the secondary there, and now we're seeing Jordan Whitehead come back. That's a big move, and I think the
You did
Bucks.
lose Carlton Davis III though, and I mean, he's other than obviously Anton Winfield Jr., he's pretty good. So that could be a big loss for you guys if you had secondary struggles.
I think that it's not that big of a deal. A secondary where Jordan Whitehead and Antoine Winfield Jr. are in the same secondary, I think does not have a ton of issues. I'd say the linebacker position is definitely a concern. Levante David's back. Um, Lost Shaq Barrett to the Dolphins, which is Shaq Barrett not as good as he once really was, but I mean
Still a good player
he's
for
still
sure.
a great edge rusher. But I mean the Bucks can draft a linebacker. I think there's people in there, but there's another team in that division that definitely gives a little bit of a scare. And that's the Falcons.
Yeah, so obviously I think the Falcons had the biggest money move of the offseason, obviously signing Kirk Cousins. So we've hopefully for the short term finally solved the quarterback problem in Atlanta that has been there since Matt Ryan left town. But we'll see. Kirk Cousins, the real big question from him is he was playing really great these past few seasons, and he started this season absolutely on fire. But then he tore his Achilles, and that's a really big injury for any quarterback. Even if he's not a mobile, he's a pocket passer. He's still, I think, 36 years old, and that's a huge injury to anybody. That I mean, whatever athleticism Kirk has, it's probably all gone now. So we'll see what he looks like in Atlanta with a totally new coaching system. And I mean, not even just new to Kirk, but new to the entire team. I mean, Raheem Morris was here before, but he's back as a head coach now. And he's more defensive minded. So we've got new coordinators over there, and we'll see what he likes with I mean, I think our weapons are probably pretty comparable to what he's had with the Vikings in years past. I mean, the like if he can really harness the power of them, our offense might be really great. It might make a huge jump from last year to this year just because we replaced Desmond Ritter with Kirk Cousins. Because I mean, we traded Desmond Ritter and we got Rondale Moore, who can be an electric player. He hasn't been that great in the past, but he was a second round draft pick, so he does have that kind of potential. We've of course got Kyle Pitts, who hasn't been able to live up to the hype since he had a really good rookie season with Matt Ryan, but I think hopefully all the fantasy football people will be happy. I think hopefully he can have a great season with Kirk, go back over 1,000 yards again, and actually score some touchdowns this season, more than two. We've got Drake London, who I'm really high on. I think he's a great player, and I think this season he's going to show the league really that how good he is. I honestly would not be surprised if he's sitting at 13, 1,400 yards when the season's over, just because he's finally got a chance to have a proven quarterback in the league throw him the ball. And then we lost Cordero Patterson, which is sad, but Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson in the backfield is scary. Most teams cannot even come close to competing with that. That's a star-studded offense of young skill position players too, which is exciting.
I mean, like when you think about it, the Panthers not really going to compete in that FC South. The Saints, if Derek Carr learns how to throw a football, maybe. But I just really think this division comes down to the Bucks and Falcons. And I'd say this is honestly I don't think I've ever been this excited to watch the NFC South. Like last year was abysmal. That was the worst season of football I've watched from a division in my life. It was awful. I mean, the Bucks kind of figured it out in the end, playing against the Eagles and then playing up in Detroit. Those were some solid games, but I mean the regular season was hard to watch. But I really really am looking forward to seeing like Kyle Pitts, like you said. I've I've hated on Kyle Pitts a lot. I'm an avid Kyle Pitts hater. I also hate on Drake
Always
London.
played for your rivals, unfortunately for you.
Yeah, but I mean I'm gonna give Kyle Pitts credit where credit is due. Having Desmond Shitter as your quarterback definitely does not help your stats whatsoever. So I think Kyle Pitts kind of, I know like his rookie season was good, but I think this is his chance to kind of silence the hate on him. And I honestly hope for his sake that he can, because I think Kyle Pitts deserves a lot more than what he's given. And that's coming from a Florida State and a Bucks fan. So I
Yeah,
think,
I've honestly been a little bit scared the past 2 seasons. There's been a little bit of doubt in the back of my mind that Kyle Pitts is going to be a massive bust, but this is his season to prove it. And I don't think he is. He has the raw talent, and he's shown he's had a good season before, so I think he really can bounce back. And another big thing is I mean, he had a pretty bad MCL injury that clearly had slowed him down last season. I mean, he suffered it 2 seasons ago, but he should be fully healthy now, so and fully back to his original explosiveness or as close to that as he can get. So the hope is that he is the same player he's been and was at Florida and was his first season, and we can really see him ball out. Yeah, I mean it'll be an interesting division to watch for sure. It seems to be a two horse race between the Falcons and Bucks, and really comes down to if you believe the Bucks running it back is enough, or if Kirk Cousins is going to take the boost the Falcons up over them now. And I'm honestly pretty low on the Saints. I mean, as a Falcons fan, I have to hate on them, but still, I don't like the team that they've built there. I don't see how it's going to be that successful, and I don't think Dennis Allen is a good head coach. I'm hoping the Panthers can improve. I hope Bryce Young has a much better sophomore season. I don't want him to be a total bust. That would honestly be unfortunate. And the Panthers haven't exactly been the best or anywhere near the top of the NFL organizations in a while, but I think they'll actually bounce back this season. I think they could get up, around if they get up to 7 or even maybe 8 wins, that would be a great season for them and show bode well for the future. But we'll see. I honestly expect the Saints to come in last place. That would be my prediction right now,
yeah,
with the Falcons coming in first, of course.
I think, obviously, I think this is probably one of the best quarterback duels we're going to see. I mean, it like really, if we're right about this, it comes down to a Baker Mayfield, Kirk Cousins showdown. And I don't think I've ever been more excited to watch two quarterbacks go at it. I mean, that could
It
legitimately
sounds kind of
be.
funny, but it does sound like the Falcons and Bucks. They when they played each other last season, they were exciting games, and I think you're right. It sounds silly, but it'll be really interesting if they. Hopefully, the NFL schedules them to play each other towards the end of the season because those games will be fun.
And I mean, I want to bounce back to the NFC South, of course, and I want to talk more Falcons and Bucks. There are just a couple trades that I feel like we have to put in here. Um, why the hell is Jameis Winston a Cleveland Brown?
Yeah,
Uh,
that's I don't know. Jameis, I don't think he's got any. I don't know if he really had much good NFL football in him ever, but I don't
no,
see,
he did.
that amounting to much. I guess I don't know. Deshaun Watson has just been honestly so bad that who knows? Jameis might have to come out and play, but seems like the Browns really are just trying to build the most unlawful quarterback room in the league right now because they went out and they looked for one of the other women abusers at quarterback in the league, and they signed him. So we'll see what happens there. If they pair him up with Deshaun Watson, watch out anybody in Cleveland.
I
I don't
mean,
really ever want to.
Jameis Winston, I think he's cleaned up his act a lot. I mean, like, obviously what he did in college, yeah. I mean, Jameis was there for a reason. But in the NFL, he's really cleaned up his act. I think he's become somebody that like a lot of kids can look up to. He's become a better person. I think Jameis Winston is a great locker room guy, and maybe that's what Cleveland needs. Is because, I mean, I don't know, Deshaun Watson, if he can stay out of trouble off the field, he's a good quarterback. But I mean, if you have to throw Jameis in there, you're not in the worst situation. I mean, he went 30 for 31 season, which
We're not talking baseball though.
it's not a good situation, but it's not the worst thing ever. It's better than starting a random. I mean, the times he played for the Saints, like he cooked for I think like a quarter and then tore his ACL. That's a Jameis Winston kind of
He's
game
still
right
he's still
there.
still celebrated in the locker room with the torn ACL.
Oh
So I
my
mean,
gosh. That's the
yeah,
greatest clip of all time.
I guess you're right about Jameis. I mean, he is definitely a good locker room player, and I honestly get the feeling that Deshaun Watson may not be. There's something off about him in Cleveland. I don't know. He's not even been really playing well there either. And I can never root for the guy. I don't honestly know how anybody can. And I guess Jameis definitely has cleaned up his act. He's seems like a better person since he got to New Orleans, which is really surprising. I don't didn't really know that happens to anybody ever, but who knows? The Saints, maybe he learned from took that name upon himself. But we'll see. It would be pretty funny if the Browns make it to the playoffs next year, not because of Deshaun Watson, but because of Jameis Winston, kind of like they did last season with Joe Flacco. Who knows?
I mean, legitimately though, to kind of get away from the joking about him, Jameis Winston is a really smart quarterback. His football IQ is really good. The problem is he tries to force passes that are not Jameis Winston's passes to throw, and that's how you end up having your first career pass. Was his first career or his last with the Bucks? I know one of them he threw a pick six.
I'm pretty sure it was both.
I think he
His
started his
last
career
was
in
a pick
Tampa.
six. His last was a overtime pick six to the Falcons.
Yep. But I mean, Jameis Winston's a smart quarterback. He got LASIK eye surgery, so apparently that's supposed to fix it. Apparently it was a vision problem. Vision problem. But I mean, if Jameis can really if he can just limit the amount of stupid throws he makes, I think Jameis Winston could legitimately be an asset for the Browns.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Hopefully he might get some playing time there. I don't really enjoy seeing Deshaun Watson on the football field at all. So honestly, I never want to wish injury on anybody, but I honestly wouldn't be upset if Deshaun Watson gets hurt because he deserves it straight up. He for what he's done, he deserves it.
Yeah.
But on a lighter note, I want to talk about one of my favorite signings of the offseason, and that was the Raiders signing Christian Wilkins. They paid a lot, 4 years, 110 million. That's a lot of money, and but he's a good player, and to put him on that D line next to Max Crosby is scary. That's I don't like if you're an opposing quarterback and you're going against that. That's that I would not want to play the Raiders. So I'm excited to see how that works out. I mean, the only problem for the Raiders is they're kind of I don't know, they're in an interesting spot. They're not a bad team, but I wouldn't exactly go out there to say that they're good yet. But I think this is a good step to take for them to kind of see how next season goes.
Yeah, I mean, the quarterback situation in Las Vegas is weird. I mean, I love Gardner Minshew. I'm a big Gardner Minshew fan. But I don't know if Gardner Minshew's an NFL starting quarterback, but I guess we're about to find
No.
out unless they
Yeah, I
draft
mean
someone.
he got the Colts a good amount of wins last season, but those were against bad teams. And I mean, everybody saw that play at the end of the season and that win and go to the playoffs game versus the Texans. He missed an easy throw. And I mean, they still have the Purdue guy, Aiden O'Connell.
Shout out
That's
Armand.
the AOC of the NFL, not not of the Democratic Party, but we'll see. I don't know. I don't really think he's that great of a quarterback. He was all right in a few games for them, but he didn't show that great. So we'll see what happens
And
with that.
to kind of bounce a little off of those and back to where we were in the NFC South, I was kind of thinking about it. And the fact that the Bucks are able to bring players back, like Jordan Whitehead, for example, who wanted to come back, and you have players on the team like almost recruiting people to come back, and they're willing to come back to Tampa. And you have like Baker Mayfield who's saying he loves Tampa, he loves being a Buccaneer, and it's the same thing that Tom Brady said. You just gotta really like love the culture clearly that's been created there. I mean, I don't think Todd Bowles is the greatest coach in the world, but I mean, I was a Todd Bowles hater. I hated Baker Mayfield at first a little bit because I was like, all right, he's gonna have 3 good games. It's gonna be over. The magic will end, and then the magic just didn't end. And Todd Bowles, I think he's had his bumps, but I think Todd Bowles is a great coach. I 100% take back everything I said about him. I take back everything I said about Baker. I think the culture they've created together and just having that many people want to come back and play on a team, especially in the NFL, where they might be able to get more money, but they love a culture so much to come back and play for it, just speaks a lot to like the kind of team you need to win. And I think the Falcons, it may not show yet, but I think if the Falcons do it right this year with a new coach, a fresh restart, new quarterback, I think the Falcons have a chance to kind of set themselves up a little dynasty situation like the Bucks did. Little passing the torch, bringing a quarterback with a lot of experience. The Bucks did it with Brady, and then we get Baker Mayfield. So I think the Falcons just need Kirk Cousins to play well, get them back on track, and then once Kirk Cousins is done, they need to find their Baker Mayfield. And I hope it's not actually Baker Mayfield.
I think that's a really good point, though. It definitely is something to say of the Bucks organization that they're like that. Especially, I mean, they've been for recently. They've been one of the, I guess, the top team, one of the top teams, obviously winning a ring in 2020 and consistently making the playoffs. It definitely says something of their culture there, which is impressive. And I really like a lot of their players. Like Mike Evans is a Hall of Famer. He's amazing. He's so much fun to watch. Levante David is also should be a Hall of Famer. He's such a consistent contributor. He's amazing. Even as he gets up in there in age, he still continues to be great. But yeah, the Falcons, one thing that they have really struggled with, which doesn't seem to fit in Atlanta, is their culture. And with Arthur Smith, it was bad. With Dan Quinn, that's kind of bad. That's why we started to fall off and got him fired. But I think Raheem Morris, it's weird that his signing was a little bit weird in the sense that we could have had him because he was an interim after we fired Dan Quinn, and we just hired Arthur Smith instead. But I think Raheem Morris kind of seems like a guy that fits in Atlanta, and it seems like the fans are embracing him. So I hope that he can kind of build that culture because that's what's been missing in Atlanta for a long time. And who sees it looks like a lot of people are excited about Kirk Cousins as well. I mean, they're making the jokes about the Coles cash and whatnot, but everybody's still excited because this is the first time where we've really looked at the Falcons and been like, okay, they're kind of building something here. So we'll see what's going on. I mean, everybody knows. I think the city really likes. They've embraced, our weapons on offense, and we've got some solid players on defense. Grady Jarrett is awesome. I love him so much. He's been there forever. AJ Terrell, the city really likes him as well. He's a great cornerback. Hopefully, we can retain him for the future. But and Jesse Bates came over, had a great first season. But yeah, I think building a culture, if we can build a winning culture, which we haven't had in Atlanta for a long time, I think that is going to be a great step to even if maybe we don't win a Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins, which I honestly would be slightly surprised, pretty surprised if we can really win a Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins. It can put us on the right track as a franchise overall because Falcons have been lost for a while. Matt Ryan really righted the ship, but other than him, our we have had struggles in the franchise to put it lightly.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what was that 2016 when the Falcons last win,
Yeah,
if
2016
you look at the
to
way
2017.
that Atlanta embraced that team, and then you kind of look and then you see the same kind of stuff happening currently with them embracing some of the like Kirk Cousins coming in, like Skinny Jean Kirk is already a thing. I mean, we're not even at the draft yet. Um, I think that's the kind of stuff you need. I think a lot of people seem to forget that past your team, you need your city bought in. A lot of
Mhm.
games can be decided by your fans. If your team feels like they have your full support, it definitely helps a lot.
Yeah, I mean, as a fan of Atlanta sports, um, I've noticed like that's sports are big in Atlanta and people want to like them, but honestly, I think 28-3 broke a lot of people's trust with the Falcons. Sounds kind of weird to say, but I don't think we're going to have that much support behind our team again in Atlanta unless we start making noise in the playoffs again. And I'm hoping that that's what Kirk Cousins is able to bring to Atlanta, even if we can't win a Super Bowl or make it to a Super Bowl. If we can win some playoff games, it'll get the city's support behind the Falcons again. And look at the Braves. The Braves are the darling of Atlanta right now. That's what everybody cares about in Atlanta because we've got the young players, we've got the success, things like that. And I mean, and we're just the Braves are a well run organization, and that's what the Falcons are aiming to become because that's honestly not what they are right now, and that's not what they've been, even with great players like Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. But if they can really capture fans in Atlanta again, then that's putting them on the right track to success in the future.
And I mean, to give it, obviously, I'm a Tampa sports fan, so I'm gonna have to bring up Tampa Bay when you talk about a city liking sports. I would say, like, look at the run that Tampa sports have gone on. I mean, it's been what, 5 years almost since the Rays missed a playoff game or missed the playoffs in general.
I
Um,
mean, I honestly expect that to come to an end this season while you are a member of the Rays organization. I think that's going to bring a big curse on them. But yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying.
Crawdad's games would prove that we are bad luck. Um, but I would say, like, look at like the Lightning consistently on. They're on kind of slowing down a little bit, but the Bucks making the playoffs, and then like that 2020 span where Tampa sports just went on a tear. I mean, winning a Stanley Cup, winning the Super Bowl, going to the World Series and losing because you took Blake Snell out in the sixth inning. Yeah, Kevin Cash, we're talking about you, buddy. Like that was just such a big wave for Tampa sports, and like shooting energy back into a city like that has clearly worked because Tampa fans are just ready. Like, I mean, season tickets are selling out. Like, we're seeing stuff that Tampa sports hasn't seen in a long time. And I mean, now you've got like USF pulling in like undefeated or not undefeated, but like selling out for games is just insane. And I think like a lot of people overlook how much that means when your city fully backs your sports teams because that puts you in a whole different bracket. It makes it harder to play against. I think that yeah, if Atlanta can get that kind of stuff going again, get what they got for the Braves going with the Falcons, I think the Falcons are a really dangerous team.
And it'll be exciting because sometimes teams in their first season can really go pretty far and surprise people. I mean, who knows? Maybe the Falcons make it to the NFC Championship game or something like that. That'd be crazy. I would definitely love that. I would probably owe things to Kirk Cousins, potentially the name of my firstborn child. No, I'm not going to go quite that far unless he wins us the Super Bowl. If Kirk Cousins wins us the Super Bowl, I might have to, I don't know, I'll have to do some drastic things, honestly.
I think I think overall, as far as it goes in the NFC South, it's rough to say, but if you take last year to this year, not knowing how Kirk Cousins is going to mold into Atlanta yet, I'd say right now Bucks division to lose, but depending on how training camp goes, depending on how the season starts out, I would give it Falcon. Give me September, and I will tell you. I'll come back to this clip right here, and I will tell you whether I was right about it's the Bucks conference to lose or if it or division, but the Bucks division to lose or the Falcons division to lose. But I think it's really either or. It's a toss up. I think the Bucks are just more implemented, and we know what to expect out of them. We're not seeing really anything new from them. So, but I mean, even as a Bucks fan, I'd love to see Atlanta come back. I'm so tired of the Saints scraping by to be anywhere near winning something.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I think that was a good take. I think like the Bucks are probably still the favorite, but I think you're right that you'll be able to tell fairly early in the season if the Falcons are different and if they're going to be able to take the division or not. Of course, screw the Saints, like you said. The one hole in the statement you just made. is that you were going to look back at the clip in September, and I'm kind of worried for you that you're not going to be able to make it until September, considering that now in March spanning to the that into September, that spans the entire summer, and that's a lot of series between the Red Sox and Rays,
Brian Bayo
and
will not be
we
near me.
we all yeah, we all know Brian Bayham would be in your vicinity, which is pretty dangerous to you, considering I think taking a 90s high 90s fastball to the chest is really not going to be great for your well-being.
I
We'll
eat
see. We'll
those.
hope. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe you've got hidden talent and you.
The only thing Brian Bayo is striking out this season is the McDonald's order. If you know, you know.
Wow. Okay. That's that's a throwback for sure. We'll see. I don't honestly would be more surprised to see you still 100% well by September than the Panthers winning the division. But
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes.
There is one more thing before we wrap up this episode, and I can't believe in our notes we almost forgot it. Aaron Donald's done. His reign of terror is over. I never have to deal with watching the Rams just kill teams because of Aaron Donald. I'm
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I was hoping that you would somehow be signed as the quarterback for opposing NFC West team and have to face Aaron Donald because I would have really liked to see that on live TV. Um, but yeah, I, I don't. Some people think it's surprising. I think the writing had been on the wall for a while, and I applaud Aaron Donald for retiring at a state where he still has his body and his mental capacities left. But he's accomplished so much. I mean, there's really not anything else he could have done. What a career for Aaron Donald. Congrats on everything. He got his ring. He's probably, I don't know, people are debating it. He might be the greatest defensive player of all time. I
Look at the
I still
pictures
feel
of
like you
him
have to
getting
sign.
blocked.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean,
Like
how many
there's
players
a debate
have
that
four people
he's the
blocking them?
defensive GOAT. Yeah, I don't necessarily think he is. I feel like you still have to go with Lawrence Taylor just because of the way he revolutionized
Yeah.
defense really as a whole. But Aaron Donald, I don't think I don't know if we're ever going to see somebody quite as dominant from the defensive tackle position as him. I mean, what a player.
Yeah. Um, Aaron Donald, I mean, just another kind of legend from that era of the NFL that's now retiring. I mean, we're definitely coming into a new age of the NFL. I mean, the NFL we kind of grew up with like Brady, the Mannings, that NFL, Aaron Donald, it's kind of getting it's over now. We're starting to see the back half of it. We're
Hmm.
starting to see more young talent, and it's kind of sad to see go, but it is refreshing to see new young talent come in, like Chase Young, just like
He's okay, hold on.
not
You're
com-
talking about new young talent, and the first player name is Chase Young. Chase Young is not good. I'm sorry. Chase Young is not good anymore.
uh
He had one maybe you can say good season as a rookie where he kind of won defensive rookie of the year even though he didn't deserve it that much. But I'd say I don't know how you skipped over Micah Parsons. I mean, he should be the first name that you name
I try
him.
to
TJ Watt
I try to
taking the
forget
torch
Micah
from
Parsons
JJ Watt.
exists, but he's always on my Twitter
Yeah.
feed, so there's no way to do it. Speaking of Micah
Yeah,
Parsons, the Cowboys, um, I don't even know what's happening in Dallas right now. I'm not sure if the Cowboys realize that it's the off season or if they're allowed to sign people, but the Cowboys have done absolutely nothing.
I mean, it's I guess, still they're still them boys and it's their year this year, apparently. I don't exactly think that the best way to ensure it's your year is by signing, I believe they've only signed Eric Kendrick so far, he used to be a good player. He's kind of fallen off now. It's just another linebacker for them as well. It seems like they have so many linebackers.
I mean,
Uh,
the only major
who
change
knows
for the
though?
Cowboys this year has been Dak Prescott now looking like Matt from Wii Sports. That's about the most major thing that's happened.
Yeah. It could be big news. We'll see how it affects his play, but also I guess the Cowboys they lost Dan Quinn, which is actually pretty big.
Yeah.
I think I don't like him as a head coach from his time as the Falcons head coach. I realize we went to the Super Bowl, but I don't think he's that great of a head coach, but he definitely seems to be a fantastic defensive coordinator. So I think they'll end up taking a step back, which may not be that surprising considering the offseason they've had as well.
Yeah. I mean, we're in for a pretty exciting we're in for an exciting NFL season no matter what. I think if anything, this free agency so far has just showed us how exciting it can be. Um, I feel like every day we're kind of getting a new move that everybody's like, I didn't think that was gonna happen. And I mean, it's definitely been exciting so far. I'm hoping it stays exciting. I'm hope the season's as exciting as we think it'll be from what we have so far. I mean, that's
Yeah, I mean,
all.
we'll see what happens with the draft in April too. I mean, that always changes so much. I mean, who knows? Maybe there'll be some big surprising trade, and maybe the Bears accidentally draft Shane French at number one overall. And people would probably predict that it sets back their franchise, but who knows? Maybe now that Aaron Donald's gone, maybe Shane French is the answer at quarterback that the Bears have been asking for, and they get their 4,000-yard passer.
I mean,
Who knows? I mean, anything could happen.
there's no no guarantee my phone is ringing in April. But
There's no guarantee it's not either. We're just gonna say that.
yeah, I mean, that's about all we can really report on right now for the NFL. I think we've pretty much covered our bases of everything pretty important. Um, obviously,
Make sure to put in the comments any other topics you'd like us to talk about, or
yes.
if we miss anything as well. Make sure to put that, and we'll try to respond to your comment, provide some commentary on that as well.
I mean, yeah, if you guys ever have anything to say or anything you'd like us to cover, I mean, you can drop a comment down and we can put it in the next edition of the show we do. I mean, every Sunday we try to record. We might have to change up our schedule a little bit. Obviously, Bebs isn't here right now. He's busy with something. It's St. Patrick's Day because we both got our green on. Not getting pinched around here. Um, but obviously, like every Sunday, we record. So during the week, if you have something you want us to discuss, it doesn't necessarily have to be like on topic. Obviously, our last two episodes have been very on topic. We've been focused baseball, but I honestly feel like some of the episodes more towards the end of spring going into summer, we're gonna have to focus a little more on just a broad band of sports news.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you'd like us, like if you want some input on how to properly load your dishwasher, why
True.
not throw it out there? Well, I'm experienced in that. I can take some notes from my mom, and we'll try to learn some and provide you with some feedback, some information to feed your interest there. But make sure you guys tune in tomorrow to when we drop the March Madness bracket. It's
Yes.
going to be it's a collective bracket between me, Shane, and Bebs. I think it should be a great episode. I'm a huge fan of college basketball. March Madness is my favorite tournament, playoffs, whatever you want to call it, of anything in the U.S. So it should be fun tomorrow. It's always so much fun to fill out those brackets, and then we also created a tournament group on ESPN for you guys to join. It's just called Triple Talk Podcast. It's public, so if you just look it up, you can join it with any bracket that you want, and we'll see who comes out on top, and who knows, maybe we'll have to think of a reward. I think we might have to do that. For whoever
I
comes in first
think
place gets something.
nonetheless, I'm gonna link the bracket in the description. So if you want to go in there and join that, but definitely for sure, whoever comes in first, I want to bring them on the podcast. And just kind of go over what went into their decision making with picking that
Oh, I
bracket.
like that idea
But yeah,
for
we're definitely
sure.
gonna have to think of a little prize to go into because I mean, like getting first in a March Madness bracket is not an easy feat. I mean, obviously we have an inside joke pick, but you're gonna have to come back tomorrow to find out about that inside joke pick. But when that team beats that team, if you pick that on your bracket and get first, I mean that's just the kind of stuff that happens. So
Yeah, I think one thing is make sure I think a potential prize that I was thinking of is a meet and greet. There's some great people that we could do meet and greets with. Aaron Donald, meet and greet in the pocket with Aaron Donald. Meet and greet at home plate with Brian Bayo. Um, or I guess
meet and
there's I
greet
don't know, there's some
Trevor Bauer.
meet and greet in the A gap with Derrick Henry. Yeah.
But
Meet But yeah, watch out for that March Madness video tomorrow. It'll be pretty entertaining.
that
We'll
one
see how we butt heads on each pick, but At least the good thing is there's three of us, so it should
Yeah.
be pretty simple to come to a consensus with every pick. That'll be nice.
But definitely, if you guys want to join the bracket again, I'm gonna put it in the description below, so you guys can just go ahead and click that, sign up if you don't already have an account, and then join the bracket. And we're just gonna see who gets the most accurate. I think March Madness is gonna be fun. Bebs has been texting me all day. He thinks the committee sucks, so we're gonna discuss all that tomorrow. But that's another episode of the podcast done. So we'll see you guys tomorrow night.